The aura of the unfindable woman, the psychology of selective presence. What if the reason people can't forget her is not because she's everywhere, but because she's almost never fully available? She enters quietly. She doesn't demand attention. She doesn't explain herself. And yet, long after she leaves a room, something about her stays behind. Not mystery in the loud sense, not silence for attention, something deeper, an absence that feels intentional. This is the psychology of the unfindable woman, the woman who isn't hiding, but isn't easily reachable either. The woman whose presence feels rare, measured, and deliberate. And once you understand why this works, you'll realize something unsettling. It's not about beauty, it's not about playing games, it's not about manipulation, it's about selective presence. Stay with me, because this isn't a personality type, it's a psychological shift. And once it happens, the way people perceive you changes permanently. Most women are taught something very early. Be visible, be responsive, be emotionally available, be accommodating, be easy to reach. Society rewards accessibility, but psychology tells a different story. The human mind doesn't value what is always present. It values what feels intentional. The unfindable woman isn't absent because she wants to be chased. She's absent because she is rooted in herself. And that difference is everything. Here's the part most people misunderstand. She's not distant, she's not cold, she's not detached, she's contained. Her energy doesn't leak into every room. Her attention isn't scattered. Her emotions aren't available on demand. She decides where she shows up, and that decision alone creates an aura. Most people unconsciously give their presence away. They respond quickly. They explain themselves. They fill silence. They stay longer than they should. They offer more than what was asked. Not because they want to, but because discomfort makes them nervous. The unfindable woman is different. She is comfortable with space. She understands something subtle about human psychology. Presence has value only when it's not guaranteed. When someone knows they can always access you, your presence becomes background noise. When your presence feels chosen, it becomes memorable. This isn't strategy, it's self-awareness. The unfindable woman doesn't perform connection, she allows it. She doesn't rush intimacy, she lets it unfold. She doesn't overshare to be understood, she lets people meet her slowly. And because of that, people feel like they never fully have her. Not in a frustrating way, in a respectful way. Another misunderstood truth. She doesn't disappear to create mystery. She disappears to return to herself. Her solitude isn't emptiness, it's alignment. She knows when her energy is needed and when it's being drained. And she leaves before resentment replaces clarity. This is why people feel her absence so strongly. Because when she's present, she's fully present. She listens without performing empathy. She speaks without over-explaining. She exists without trying to be impressive. And when she leaves, she doesn't leave pieces of herself behind. That containment is powerful. Here's a real-life moment many people have experienced. You meet someone like her. At first, she feels normal, warm, attentive. Then you notice something strange. She doesn't text endlessly. She doesn't chase continuation. She doesn't fill every pause. When conversations end, they end. And instead of relief, you feel curiosity. Not anxiety, not rejection. Curiosity, because your mind expected availability and encountered boundaries instead. The human brain fills gaps, and when something is not fully revealed, it becomes mentally engaging. That's not manipulation, that's cognition. The unfindable woman doesn't stimulate obsession. She stimulates attention. There's a difference. She doesn't keep people guessing with mixed signals. She's clear, but she's not constantly present. Clarity without overexposure. This combination is rare, and rarity creates value. Another reason her aura feels powerful is this. She doesn't seek validation from interaction. She doesn't need constant reassurance to feel secure. Her self-worth doesn't rise and fall with responses, replies, or reactions. And because of that, her presence feels calm, grounded, unrushed. People feel regulated around her, even if they don't know why. Most people confuse availability with kindness. She understands that kindness without boundaries becomes self-erasure. So she chooses her moments, she chooses her spaces, she chooses her people, and she doesn't apologize for it. The unfindable woman also understands emotional pacing. She doesn't match intensity immediately. She doesn't mirror energy automatically. She observes first. She lets people reveal themselves. And this changes the power dynamic quietly. Because people feel seen, but not consumed, heard, but not absorbed. Another subtle trait, she doesn't compete for attention. She doesn't rush to be noticed. She doesn't announce her value. She lets absence do the talking. And absence, when combined with consistency, creates psychological weight. Here's why this matters. People are drawn to what feels self-contained, something that doesn't need them, but chooses them. The unfindable woman isn't scarce because she withholds. She's scarce because she doesn't overextend. She doesn't give emotional access to everyone. And that selectivity is felt. You don't feel pushed away, you feel invited when it's earned. Another thing about her presence, she doesn't linger where she's not aligned. She leaves conversations that feel draining. She exits spaces that feel performative. She doesn't stay to be polite at the cost of herself. And because she leaves cleanly, without drama or explanation, people remember her departure more than most people's arrival. She doesn't collapse into availability when someone pulls away. She doesn't chase to restore connection. She trusts that what's meant to connect will return, and what doesn't wasn't aligned. This trust is felt, and trust in oneself is magnetic. Not in a loud way, in a steady way. People sense that she doesn't need to be chosen to feel whole. And that's why being chosen by her feels meaningful. This is the psychology most never learn. Being hard to find isn't about hiding. It's about not overexposing your inner world. It's about letting your presence be intentional, not automatic. And this is only the surface. By now you understand something most people never do. The unfindable woman isn't rare because she hides. She's rare because she doesn't dilute herself. And now comes the deeper layer, the one that explains why her presence changes how people treat her, even when she says very little. Here's a truth that feels uncomfortable at first. People don't respect you more because you give more. They respect you more when they sense limits. Limits signal self-trust, and self-trust is power. The unfindable woman carries an internal boundary that people feel before they ever see it. Not a wall, not defensiveness. A quiet line that says, I know when to engage and when not to. This is where selective presence becomes psychological authority. Most people are emotionally predictable. They respond the same way every time. They explain when questioned. They defend when misunderstood. They chase when connection feels threatened. Predictability makes people easy to manage. The unfindable woman is different. She doesn't react on impulse. She doesn't rush to repair emotional tension. She doesn't collapse into availability when energy shifts. And because of that, people slow down around her. They become more careful with words, more conscious of tone, more aware of behavior. Not because she demands respect, but because her presence sets a standard. Another layer most people miss. She doesn't reward inconsistency. If someone is warm one day and distant the next, she doesn't chase clarity. She matches reality, not emotionally, energetically. She doesn't punish. She doesn't lecture. She simply adjusts access. And that adjustment is felt deeply because humans fear losing access to what feels grounding. Here's a real-life pattern many people have seen. Someone becomes curious about her. They lean in, then pull back slightly to test. Most people respond with anxiety. She doesn't. She remains exactly as she was. Not colder, not warmer, just steady. And that steadiness does something powerful. It exposes games without confronting them. It says, you don't control the rhythm here. This is why selective presence dissolves manipulation. Manipulation relies on emotional imbalance. The unfindable woman stays balanced. Another reason her aura feels strong is emotional economy. She doesn't spend emotional energy where it isn't returned. She doesn't overinvest early. She doesn't imagine futures prematurely. She doesn't attach meaning where there is no consistency. This protects her nervous system. And a regulated nervous system is magnetic. People feel safe around her, even when they can't fully access her. Safety without availability is rare, and rarity creates fascination. She also understands something crucial about attention. Attention is currency. Most people give it away freely, to conversations that go nowhere, to people who drain them, to dynamics that never grow. She invests attention intentionally, and when someone receives it, they feel chosen, not entitled. Chosen. That distinction changes everything. Another subtle trait: she doesn't seek closure from people who create confusion. She understands that clarity is a two-way effort. If someone can't communicate honestly, she doesn't fill the gaps for them. She lets silence answer. And silence, when used consciously, reveals truth faster than words. This is why people often project depth onto her, not because she withholds information, but because she doesn't rush to reveal herself to be understood. She trusts that the right people will meet her where she is, and the wrong ones will fall away, without force, without drama, without explanation. Now here's the part that most people get wrong when they try to imitate this. Selective presence is not disappearing. It's returning to yourself before you respond. It's choosing alignment over reaction. It's asking yourself, do I want to be here? Or am I just afraid to leave? The unfindable woman doesn't stay where she has to shrink to be included, and she doesn't announce her departure. She leaves cleanly. That clean exit creates psychological weight, because unresolved access lingers in the mind, not as pain, as awareness. People think of her not because she manipulated them, but because she didn't cling. She didn't force meaning. She allowed space, and space is where reflection happens. Another important layer: she doesn't romanticize being misunderstood. She simply refuses to over-translate herself. She knows that over-explaining comes from fear. Fear of being misjudged, fear of being disliked, fear of being abandoned. She has already made peace with the fact that not everyone will understand her, and peace removes desperation. Without desperation, there is no leverage. This is why she's hard to control. You can't guilt her easily. You can't rush her decisions. You can't pressure her with urgency. Because she listens inward before she responds outward. That inward anchor is everything. Here's another real-life moment. Someone crosses a subtle boundary. Nothing dramatic, just slightly dismissive, slightly entitled. Most people ignore it to keep things smooth. She doesn't react emotionally, but she remembers. And next time, her presence is adjusted, not withdrawn completely, just recalibrated. Less access, less depth, less availability. And that shift speaks louder than confrontation ever could. People either correct themselves or drift away. Both outcomes protect her peace. This is the psychology of self-respect without performance. She doesn't announce standards. She embodies them. Another reason selective presence works long-term is this. It attracts people who are emotionally mature, people who enjoy slow connection, who don't panic in silence, who don't need constant reassurance, who respect boundaries naturally. The unfindable woman filters without trying. Her lifestyle does the filtering for her. And this is the most important realization. She is not trying to be unforgettable. She is being unaligned with overexposure. And paradoxically, that's what makes her unforgettable. Because people don't miss noise. They miss resonance. They miss presence that felt intentional. They miss someone who didn't need them, but chose them. This aura is not about gender, it's about energy. But when embodied fully, it transforms how a woman moves through the world. She is no longer waiting to be chosen. She is choosing where she belongs. And once that shift happens, everything changes. People treat you differently. They speak more carefully. They value your time. They sense your limits, not because you demanded it, because your presence taught them how. If this video made you pause, if it felt uncomfortably accurate, if it explained patterns you never had words for, like it. It tells the algorithm this depth matters. Subscribe, because psychology like this isn't surface level. Share it with someone who gives too much and feels unseen, because selective presence isn't about being hard to find. It's about being hard to replace.